the version that creates the song is a version that's meant to like interpret it or have it like in the recording forever, because I feel like we can always say, oh, I want to be better. Hello.
Hi, Alisun. How are you?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing well. Hi, Serena. Hi, Serena.
Hi, I'm from Icon PR. Just wanted to make sure everything is running smoothly.
Awesome. Nice to
Cool.
meet you. Is
Yeah,
this
nice to meet you.
enough? Should I get closer? Is this setup fine?
It looks great. I love the background that you have. Um, maybe can no, it sounds fine. I was gonna say maybe a little bit closer just for the mic to pick up a bit better, but I don't think it really matters that much.
Okay.
Cool. Oh, there we go. Yeah, there. Perfect.
Cool. Thank you.
Awesome. No, thank you. So my name's Adam, and this podcast is about you and your journey in music. And we'll talk about the new song that you have out. You got the big cover behind you, which is, I love the song a lot. It's definitely more upbeat than the first two that you put out.
Thank you. Yeah, it's definitely something I want to keep building towards. I feel like starting soft and being able to build is something that is more beautiful to me than starting like boom and then everything else kind of flows or, has
Sure.
a little bit softer of a dynamic. But yeah, I'm really excited and thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So we always start with where you were born and raised. I know you come from quite a musical household, but let's just start. You're born and raised in LA, is that correct?
Yeah, born and raised in LA. I grew up in a small town here and I always
What
had
part of Los Angeles, if you don't mind? I'm from San Diego, so I was just curious. And my wife was born in LA, so I was just wondering.
Calabasas.
Oh, cool. Okay, there you go.
Yeah. And I've always had a very musical influence since my family is in the industry. So I grew up around music 24/7. So um, it's very interesting to see what I grew up with and what I'm creating now because it's so different. And I love exploring all types of music, all different types of cultures, languages, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And so I hope to be able to integrate some of that into my style in the future. But yeah.
Cool. Well, growing up, I mean, coming from such a musical household, was that something that you were kind of pushed towards, or was it something you were just always interested in? I know you have a sister, and you guys have. I was doing some digging and found some records that you guys had put out together. So I was just curious, is that something that you were kind of pushed towards, or was it something you've always been interested in? And where did you start? Were you on piano or voice lessons?
Yeah, I started on piano, learning piano when I was around 4. I was never really pushed into doing this. If anything, I was more like straight away from it. Like, why not do anything other than this?
Right.
And I did want to do other things as a kid. I wanted to be a vet. I wanted to be a farmer. I wanted to rescue animals in Africa. Everything, a scientist, like everything I wanted to do, I just knew I wanted to create good out of it. And so that was always my goal as a kid. And later on in life, I joined theater, a little bit hesitatingly at first, but I fell in love with it. And that really made me really embrace the whole act of performing again. Because I grew up performing in local theaters as a kid and I did dance and other things that, it would show I would be able to perform in different ways. But it wasn't something that I originally said, this is what I want to do for sure forever, until I really did it on my own in high school. And then after that, I became a backup singer for a band called Camila for around 2 years. And that really confirmed that I really, really love this industry. I love doing it. I love creating. And it was at that point that I really started writing again, like writing my own songs, and it just kind of flowed. And so I just let it take me because I don't really feel like I'm necessarily writing my songs. I feel like they're there in the cosmos and I'm just downloading them and giving them to the
Sure.
physical plane, if that makes sense.
No, it does for sure. You feel like they're already there, and you just need to get them to everyone else, like get them out there.
Yeah,
Oh.
exactly.
So at 4, you learned piano. That's very early on. Was it something you continued to do? I mean, up through high school, or did you, were you in lessons for a while and you're like, I'm not
Yeah.
super into this?
So as a kid, I liked playing it, but I liked playing it on my own. So I wouldn't really practice what I was given as a
Sure.
kid. And
I've
that
heard
was,
that story quite a bit where it's like, I don't want to learn these scales and how to sit up properly. And, I want to just play pop songs or play what I want to play.
yeah, exactly. So that was no different for me. Same situation. But later I restarted it on my own and I fell in love with that again as well. Still always trying to better my craft, but yeah, something that I always loved.
As a kid, were you, was your, having your dad being so successful? I mean, I saw that he has like a star on the Walk of Fame. I mean, that's crazy in Hollywood and everything else, and all the Grammys and all that. But was that something that you were around, like you and your family were around? Was he touring, and were you on the road with them, and were you kind of immersed in that from a very young age as well?
It was kind of like a balance of being with him on tour and a balance of being in school while he's on tour,
Hmm.
because he's for me, I feel like it's very normal to kind of be with yourself or with my sister a lot of the time or most of the time,
Hmm.
because his tours can last for months
Sure.
sometimes. hmm And so it could be either like, 1 year we have a month off and we could be with him for that amount of time. When we were kids, they'd be able to take us a little bit more.
Hmm.
Um, but when we got more into middle school and high school, we couldn't really skip that many days. So it was kind of a balance.
And what about like studios and in that setting? Were you around when he was recording?
We we experienced one of his music videos as a kid, and it was one where he was like getting taken away by this ambulance. And so I saw him with this gash on his head as a kid, and I was like, what happened? And I just started crying, and he's like, no, it's fake. um and once when he was recording a couple years ago, like 2 years ago, but it wasn't really something that the studio part we weren't really a part of, especially since you have to be so in the zone, I bet, you know,
Hmm.
really
No, for
concentrated.
sure. I wasn't sure if like maybe, yeah, you had to, if you were kind of like around while they were recording, if you had to just,
Oh,
okay, I'm
yeah.
going to be sitting over here in the corner waiting, or like kind of like kind of around just the experience at all.
Yeah. I think that was
Uh,
more like once, but later in life.
Later and later, yeah. I could see that being traumatic. You see your dad, and he's got a big gash on his head, and there's an ambulance. You're like, what? What's happening? You don't realize that it's some piece of art that they're creating at the time.
Yeah. I had no idea, but it was really cool. And then seeing the final result, I was like, oh my gosh, I still cried as a kid, even though I knew it was fake. But
I would. I mean, to see your dad
but
in that
no,
situation,
cool.
you're like, oh my gosh, like, yeah. You said in high
Yeah,
school
but
you started writing songs. Is that when you were writing in high school, or
yeah.
you became? And was there like something that happened, or was there a moment that you can recall that you were like, I really just need it, like you said earlier, kind of download it out of the in the cloud and put it out there? Was it something that just came to you and you decided, I gotta get this out, I'm gonna write it? Or was there a moment that happened that you
So
knew you wanted to be a songwriter?
I think it just happened that, like, I just start hearing the melody sometimes, and I just have to create it as best as I can, because sometimes I can't find the exact sounds that I'm hearing in my mind, but I just try my best. So I never really thought to myself, I'm going to become a songwriter. Um, it actually is still clicking right now as we speak. But I've always felt that what is here now has already existed, and if it's given to you, make it and just trust the process. Like this
Mhm.
song right now, Around the World, I wrote when I was 17.
Oh,
So it has,
really?
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So it's interesting because I feel like right now, the person that I am is a couple versions more evolved as a person. And I'm trying to represent who I was as well at the same time and honoring that person.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm in an interesting creative space because what I create now, rough draft wise and everything, is so different, a really different style. And I'm really excited for you guys to hear it in the future. But I'm so thankful for what my 17-year-old self was able to create and the messages also that that version of me had to say, or, you know, that that version of me downloaded. So
Wow. Was this like, did you stumble upon like a notebook or something? Like, I mean, to find something from, not that you're old by any means, I'm like decades older than you, but like, if you look back, I think, are you right? What, how, you know, mid 20s, right? So like 17 was a handful of years ago, not a
yeah.
lot, but obviously a few years ago. Did you stumble upon like a journal, or like, how did you kind of rediscover around the world, you know, these years later?
Mm. So this song, I recorded it when I was 19. Um, I haven't really rediscovered it. I kind of have
Okay.
to left it as it was created, in a way. And so yeah, I try to honor the original process always. And I don't try to modify it as much because I did try that, but I feel
Mm-hmm.
like the version that creates the song is a version that's meant to like interpret it or have it like in the recording forever, because I feel like we can always say, oh, I want to be better, I want to make it, you know, this way now, or I want to make it more perfect or this or that, but sometimes it takes away from the original feeling instead of adding to it. And so I just try to honor what that version of me made, honestly.
I like that. I've heard that before, where artists will record like a very rough demo, like on a mic, especially now with COVID, when that was happening, like in their closet, right? And they record this piece, and you get to the studio to try to re-record it, or you know, make it, like you said, a little bit better, and it just doesn't have the same feel. It doesn't have the same emotion behind it, because you already had heard it a bunch of times, and now you're trying to like recreate it, and just like the emotion and the raw sense of the vocal, really, it kind of gets lost.
Totally. Like
And yeah, I
the way,
wonder if you're feeling kind of, if that was something that you were kind of, yeah, having to experience too, going back and listening to it.
totally. For me, I think one of the biggest pieces of wisdom that I've taken with me is as I've grown throughout the years is that the longest journey is from the head to the heart. And so I try to keep that within my process throughout life,
Hmm.
because I feel like everyone operates always in the mind. And I was there too. Um, but I feel like truth only really lies in love and in what you allow others to feel and what you feel. Because at the end of the day, if we take away everything that we think we are and we fill it with a feeling, that's really who we are at the end of the day. So I try to just operate that way.
Hmm. I like that. And at 17, and in high school, you're writing songs. Do you show these, like, do you show them to people? Do you show them to your dad and say, "Hey, I know you're a songwriter. I'm really interested in this as well." Like, was that a conversation that happened?
I used to be a lot more shy about showing my rough drafts. I used to reserve them until I thought they were like 99% good enough to be presentable.
Hmm. Sure.
Yeah, but I wouldn't always show my rough drafts. I would only show them if I really, really believed in them. Around the World was definitely one of them. Um, and even throughout my studio process, like recording it professionally and working with my producer and everything, I didn't show anyone until it was completely finished. So that's just a little bit of how I am. I try to preserve the energy of what I'm making, like
Hmm.
setting the intention per se.
Hmm.
And then later, when it's time and when it's done, allowing it to fly.
Okay. And from what I was finding online, like in 2018-ish, that's when you put out some songs with your sister, right?
Hmm. Yeah,
Okay. And so did you work together? Like, tell me about that relationship and where that started. That must have been pretty young when you started singing together. And then how does it eventually land into putting a couple of songs out or a handful of songs out together? And then obviously into you in your solo stuff now, because I want to talk to you about the first two records you put out as well.
totally. So with my sister, we've always loved singing together. We used to harmonize naturally when we were really young. After we watched High School Musical, we would just like go for it, you know? But making something together was an interesting project because we wanted to make a Christmassy feeling thing together. And the song that we chose was actually a song that we didn't know our dad used to sing with his cousin when he was really, really, really young, like
Oh,
7.
wow.
And so we were like, that's really interesting that we both chose the same song and different styles, but um, it was really fun and a growing experience for sure. I think that, you know, you never really know what to expect when you're doing something of your own for the first time. And so we've thought about doing stuff together. We thought about how our career paths would go and if we would, start together and then lead our own paths or the other way.
Hmm.
But we decided that it would be better to just start on our own paths instead of having to have this moment of like splitting and everything if we kind of saw that in our futures anyway.
Hmm. Right.
So yeah, because we have very different styles, both very, very cool in their own way, but yeah, it was very interesting. And the first two projects that we did, one of them was a tribute to my dad in an album that was all of his songs, but sung by different artists that were
Yeah.
honoring him and his process.
That's cool that you were able to be a part of that because I
Yeah,
found that record or that album where it's like, yeah, a bunch of his songs, but they're all done by other people. And was everyone else involved somehow a part of your dad's life, or was it just grabbing people that they knew were really talented? And that must have been really cool to be a part of that.
totally. It was definitely a huge honor for us to have the opportunity. And the other people on the album are people who really love him, his work, a lot, who he's personally met before that and who he's friends with or not. It's really a blend of different artists that wanted to do this and honor his art. So
Mhm.
yeah,
How did you decide on the song that you two chose for it? Like, I mean,
we
that must have been a cool experience to be a part of something that, honoring your dad.
totally, yeah, it was definitely super cool. We didn't pick the song,
Okay.
but they thought it would be the song that would best fit us. And
Sure.
so
That makes sense.
we just, we went with it, we gave it our best. And that was also a huge growing experience because that was really our first recording, studio recording ever.
Oh, so that was
So
before you did what Blue Winter? Was that the one that the
yes,
Christmas one you guys did? Okay.
yeah, that was before that. And I was super, super nervous for that because I knew that it's a huge thing to be part of something that's honoring my dad's life and that's going to be there
Mhm.
forever. And, not knowing if I was, ready for that song.
Right.
But I'm happy. I'm happy though. I'm really happy that I learned, that I grew, that it was a cool experience in the end. And yeah.
What do you remember playing it for him the first time or him hearing it with his two daughters' voices on the song? Like that must have been a pretty emotional moment.
Yeah, he was actually in the studio with us while we recorded.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, it added a little bit more pressure, but also it was
I'm sure.
still really cool because he knows best at the end of the day. And so sometimes I would have some takes that I was like, no, definitely not that one. And he'd be like, that's the one that I liked. And I'd be like, oh, Okay. Just very opposite opinions sometimes, but I was much harder on myself back then. So it was good to have his support. It was good to have his more experienced mind and ears
Mm-hmm.
there for sure.
And so from there and working with your sister, you said you ended up singing background vocals for an artist, and you did like tours and everything, right? I mean, that was a thing that was going on for quite some time.
Yeah, that was definitely, I think, my greatest growing experience, because I used to have such strong stage fright that I would literally shake,
Oh
and I
wow.
would be trembling, like my legs would be literally like trembling. And I would be trying to like hold the mic still, and obviously that really affects your voice and it doesn't flow the same. And so being able to have that experience of performing night after night and not being as afraid, even though like during that show every backup singer would have a duet with the main artist, so that
Oh,
was really
that's cool. So
cool.
you weren't just like background.
Hmm.
You'd come up and sing. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so that was really really special and a huge moment of growth for me. And by the end, I was so much more confident in myself. I felt much more comfortable on a stage. I felt more comfortable being in front of however many amount of people. And the nerves never really go away 100%, but it's definitely something that you can learn to transform into something else, like anxiety into excitement, or, you know, fear into courage.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, very beautiful experience as well.
And when do you decide to start? Because you started releasing music this past or this year, right? 2022 under
Mhm.
Allison. And when did that project like at what when did you decide you wanted to start an artist project and put music out as a solo artist?
I've wanted to release this music for years. I used to feel a little bit more rushed to release it, because right when I finished it, I was like, okay, let's set it up, let's release it, let's this and that and this and that. But some things happened, the pandemic happened,
Oh,
everything
sure.
happened in fine timing. So, it happened the way it was supposed to, but I definitely felt a lot more pressure before, and I felt like I was running behind. And then having that time pass, it gave me a good amount of time to create more things, to create new things, to evolve who I am, and to take advantage of the moments of rest within quarantine as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely did feel pressure to release it much earlier. So now I'm just like, it'll happen when it happens. And,
Right, just give it
know,
up. Oh, yeah,
yeah,
no, for sure. So when the pandemic happened, or prior to the pandemic, there was a totally different plan, I would imagine.
totally. Yeah. I think the plan was releasing all of my songs as at once
Oh, like
was
an album or
plan,
an
I
EP.
believe.
Okay.
Yeah, like an EP. And I wanted it to be on the date 1, 2, 3, 4, like all these
Ah,
things. I was like super like, "Ah, it has to be this date or it's not going to go well." And I was like driving myself crazy about it. But I think the universe was just like telling me, chill out and stop needing so much control. Because
right.
if you're, I know it's a great day astrologically, but if you don't let it flow the way it's supposed to, then you're putting out those anxious vibes instead of peaceful, I trust vibes into the universe.
Yeah, that's interesting. Have you ever gotten I'm just not sidebar question. Have you ever like studied into like numerology? Is that where you got the 1, 2, 3, 4 from, or am I just
Yeah,
throwing
numerology.
paint at the wall? I'm so interested in numerology. I interviewed someone who's a singer and like way wrote a book about numerology.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, it's so fascinating. So
Yeah,
is that
I
something
wouldn't say I
you've?
could work on.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Sorry, yeah, I was saying that's incredible. I don't think I could write a book on it with my amount of knowledge right now.
Uh-huh.
But it's definitely something that really interests me. And for me, I focus very much on like the influence of numbers, rather than like, I don't know if how much more there is to it, you know?
Hmm.
But for example, my life path number, along with the dates that I'll be releasing stuff, or the influence of the day that, you know, that equals the number that influences A, B, or C.
Sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so fascinating. When I did the test, and like me, my wife, and my son all have the same like path number. Like it's all these like things
Wow.
that kind of come to. It's really bizarre, how it's if you really look into it. Like I'm like, yeah, this is kind of what like I get it, like with the numbers and stuff, and then you really look into it, and it's like mind blowing stuff you can figure out from what just based off of your name, and what the numbers correlate to your name and stuff. It's just super interesting.
Totally. And you guys choose each other. Like your son chose you before he was born. He chose his mom before he was born. You chose them without even
Yeah.
knowing. The universe is so crazy. It just ties it all together. And somehow, lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes later, you end up with your soul family every time.
Right. No, it's
If
so
you choose.
it yeah, no, it's so yeah, it's yeah, it just gets so deep where my head is like, I can't even wrap my head around this anymore. This is too it's yeah, it's too it's yeah. But that's cool that I just kind of picked that up off based off of that one 1 2 3 4. So you decide on Hypothermia as the first song you're coming out like, okay, I'm Alisun, this is my brand, so to speak, my solo project. Why did you decide on that song to kind of just get the ball rolling?
Totally. Yeah, hypothermia for me was, I think, my first ever completed song. And it was a song that I feel like was the first song that I like physically channeled as well. Like my eyes were closed when I was playing the piano for this, and I normally have to see my hands.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like seeing this movie in my mind while hypothermia was playing. And I feel like hypothermia is a song that is going to continue influencing my life like a loop. Like, I don't know if this makes sense, like in waves per se, because as I've sat with the song, I feel like more and more comes, and I realize more about the song. And the melody for me is is one that, especially when I'm just playing it, me and my guitar, it makes me a little bit emotional,
Mm-hmm.
because I wrote about, in a way, before even knowing it, who I'm becoming without knowing that. And I feel like that's
Interesting.
why it continues. So it's like, it's very metaphorical. It's all metaphors, um, but it's all very true. Where it says, they're like a window, not a home. It's talking about our eyes. Um, New beginnings rise, no time to say goodbye because we're changing so fast. And so I feel like it's a song that I felt confident in to show as like, this is something that resonates with me, that's gentle, that, I can also still grow from, but that I definitely feel is a good place to start.
For sure, for sure. Well, I was just curious, what is your life path number? Is it 11?
It's 5 actually.
Oh, okay. Because
Yeah. Is yours
11, I
11?
think it's 11 has the one, or is it 11 or 9? I can't remember I think I might be 11. I'm like the whatever the rare one is. That's why I was just
Yeah,
curious.
that's number 11. You're
Yeah.
all number 11.
Yeah.
That's
Me, my
insane.
wife, and my son. Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy. Yeah, that's a really rare number.
Because I was curious
So
if you were
it's
11,
like,
because like in 11 you supposedly have that kind of you
yeah,
can foresee what it was happening. It sounds like that was kind of something that was happening with you when you wrote hypothermia.
totally. It's interesting because I've thought about that sometimes. I'm like, it's interesting that my life path number is 5, but I know why now, because 5 is continual change. And so
Oh,
I chose to have very sped up evolution, like very sped up cycles to grow faster.
right.
Uh, and as a kid, I would notice the patterns of these types of things. Like, what is this? Like if an event repeated twice in different circumstances, like I would be like, oh shoot, what am I supposed to learn from that? Or this is trying to teach me something, I didn't get it the first time, but now I got it. And so I wouldn't go back into it, and then it wouldn't happen again. And
Uh-huh.
so I realized like the pattern way of life kind of early on. So I realized that that's why my number is 5.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really cool to be 311s though. My gosh.
Yeah, it's weird. We have because it's a life path, and then I forgot what the second number is. The second number is different. My wife is different than, but my son and I have the same exact numbers. It's really weird.
All of them?
Yeah, all of them are the same.
Wow. That's very
Yeah,
interesting.
it's weird. And he was born on the 23rd of April. I was born on the 23rd of September, but like he was born 9 weeks early. It was just like this crazy stuff. Anyway.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is incredible.
Yeah, the numeral. I could talk to you all day about it, even though I don't know much about it. It's just such a fascinating concept.
I completely understand the feeling. I'm right
Yeah.
there.
I want to hear about "They Live in and Around Us," just because that's such a ballad song. It's slow. It's a big ballad. So you like, I feel like hypothermia is kind of in the middle, and then you
Mhm.
go to this ballad, and then the new one is the song that you wrote when you're 17, but it's just definitely more like upbeat.
Totally. So They Live in and Around Us is a song that I wrote about the magic that lives in everything, about nature, because I find so much magic in nature. I find everything within it to be a huge teacher, and I feel like that in itself is so magical. And so I feel like the more that we can recognize the magic that is around us, the more that we can recognize the magic that's within us. And so that is what the song's about. And originally, it's funny, originally I didn't know if I was going to release that song, or if I was going to produce that song. And my producer was like, you have to do this one. I need this one to be out. It makes me feel things. And so for me, that's what's important. If you feel, sorry, or
Mm.
if you see, like if it creates the movie in your mind, or if it makes you feel something, that's how I know, okay, this is the right move, this is the right thing to do. And so that's what drove me to write and make that song. And it's very special to me because I feel like in my life, I feel like it's physically like touching me, the magic. I feel like it's physically like tangible within me, and physically everywhere. Like if you stare at the sky even for enough time, you will start to see sparkles in the sky, and like the little atoms and the photons. And it's like the more that you pay attention, the more that the magic reveals itself, because it's not just always like, oh yeah, duh, like that tree is so magical, you know? But it's
Mhm.
like if you start getting closer to the tree, if you notice that it's responding to you, if you sense its energy with your hands, and you feel the moment that it's responding back to you, you feel it like a wave. And,
Mhm.
it's just all of these things that exist in our everyday reality that we kind of put in the back. But if we bring them back to the front, life is more magical again.
I love that. I love that. Have you heard of, I think it's called grounding, where you're supposed to like go outside and walk without your shoes on and for like 15 minutes a day in the morning?
Totally. I ground every day.
Do you
Maybe,
really?
but yeah. I almost never wear shoes. I think it feels better to just have your feet on the ground. But I definitely love that philosophy, and it's definitely very true. Sometimes if I notice that I'm in a lower emotional state as well, I'll just go to Mother Earth and hang out with her. And she clears it up, really. It's very, very true.
Mm-hmm. That's so cool. This has been so much fun getting to know you, Allison, and like just everything about you, the numerology and everything you stand for in your songs. I appreciate you taking time today to hang out with me.
Likewise, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure, such an honor, and I hope to do it again soon.
Oh, I would love that. I have one more question before I let you go. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Totally. I would encourage any aspiring artist to focus on not only what you are creating with, for yourself, but what you're creating within yourself to give to others. Focus on what you will make rather than what you will take, because I feel like everybody wants to take, everybody wants everything for themselves in a way, not everybody, but a lot of people. And music is such a powerful force. So take that seriously. Don't take that lightly. Honor your craft, honor your work, honor those who are listening, because we are making the new world. So make it better.
Bringing it backward.